On the sandy shore by the river, a great canopy had been raised. Beneath it, the women of the village sat packed together, drifting deeper and deeper into the Sinawi melodies of the shaman's musicians. Their faces were filled with a strange mixture of sorrow, exhaustion, and intoxicated excitement, as though dawn were already approaching. And at the center of it all, the shaman whirled. Her sleeves flew through the darkness. Her body seemed almost weightless now, as though flesh and bone had already fallen away, and only a restless spirit remained dancing beside the river. Above them, the blue starlight trembled across the black river, as if the entire night sky were about to collapse onto the sand below. Every age leaves something behind, a language, a faith, a way of speaking to the dead. And sometimes before disappearing completely, that dying world fights back one last time. Not through war, not through fire, but slowly, as people stop believing in its gods. In the 1930s, Korea was changing rapidly. Foreign religions entered villages that had once belonged to older gods. Church hymns began replacing the sound of ritual drums. Prayer replaced incantation, and little by little, people stopped coming to the shamans. In one small village, an aging shaman named Mohwa watches this change with growing fear. The people who once sought her rituals now gather around the church instead. What disappears first is not merely a religion, but a way of seeing the world. As a child, Uki had been sent away to a Buddhist temple, something not unusual in a world where older beliefs and Buddhism had long coexisted. Years later, he returns to his mother, Mohwa, a village shaman, as a grown man. But the son who comes back is no longer the boy she once knew. He has embraced Christianity, and from that moment, an invisible tension begins growing between mother and son. While Mohwa spends her days performing rituals, drinking in the village, and wandering from house to house, Nangi, Uki's half-sister from another father, is often left alone at home. Partially deaf and unable to speak, she lives quietly in the shadows of the house, watching the growing tension between her mother and Uki. Unlike her brother, Nangi does not fully belong to either world, but she possesses one unusual gift. She draws. Uki speaks of God, of sin, of salvation. To Mohwa, those words do not sound comforting. They sound foreign. For most of her life, the unseen world had felt intimate and familiar. Rituals, spirits, and ancestral fears were woven naturally into everyday life. A ritual was not merely religion, but part of survival itself. Christianity enters that world differently. It does not negotiate with older spirits, it denies them. At first, Mohwa assumes that her son has simply returned from the temple with another form of spiritual discipline. But during a meal, she notices him praying. She asks,
"What kind of practice is that?"
Uki quietly answers,
"It is not the Buddha's way, mother."
Not the Buddha's way? Then what kind of way is it?
I could no longer follow the Buddha's way.
The Buddha's way is a great way. Then what are you now? Some kind of immortal's path?
No, Mother. I follow the way of Jesus.
To Mohwa, the answer feels almost incomprehensible. The new faith carried by missionaries feels less like another belief than the arrival of a rival power. That is why she becomes convinced that something has possessed her son, not metaphorically, not emotionally, literally. She believes that an alien spirit has entered his body and pulled him away from her world. The Christian stories of miracles, healing the sick, driving out spirits, restoring the blind and the mute, mean little to Mohwa at first. She laughs at them. Petty ghosts, she scoffs. Yet the Jesus ghosts do not disappear. They spread. Little by little, even the villagers who once sought Mohwa's rituals begin turning towards the church instead. To Mohwa, it feels as though the Westerners have arrived carrying a new kind of sorcery. To the Christian preacher, however, there can be no compromise with older beliefs. Shamans and blind fortune-tellers are condemned as false guides, servants of powerless spirits and lifeless idols. There shall be no other gods before him. For the missionaries, the old rituals are not another path. They are something that must disappear. As more villagers begin gathering around the church, Mohwa grows increasingly anxious. The people who once came to her courtyard seeking rituals, healing, or protection now disappear one by one. The sound of ritual drums grows fainter. Church hymns begin filling the village instead. And with each passing day, Mohwa feels herself becoming unnecessary. But what she fears losing is not merely her place in the village. It is the entire order of reality she has lived by all her life. To Uki, his mother's house no longer feels like home. Compared to the bright hymns, prayers, and warm gatherings of the Christian households he has lived among, Mohwa's home appears dark, decaying, and almost haunted. The collapsing walls, the overgrown weeds, the damp silence of the old house, everything seems filled with another presence. For a moment, Uki feels as though he has wandered into some dark, ghost-ridden place. In Kim Dong-ri's Portrait of a Shaman, the conflict between Mohwa and Uki is never portrayed as a simple clash between old and new beliefs. It feels far more ancient than that, a collision between two invisible worlds, prayer against incantation, the cross against the old spirits. One night, that tension erupts inside the family itself. Worried about Uki, who has not returned home for days, Mohwa prepares his evening meal and leaves it waiting beside her. Alone in the kitchen late at night, she begins performing a desperate exorcism-like ritual, muttering prayers as though trying to drive away an unseen force. Through a narrow tear in the paper door between the room and the kitchen, Nang-yi watches her mother in silence. And then, as if seized by something she herself cannot understand, the girl suddenly tears off her clothes and begins dancing wildly in a trance-like frenzy. When Mohwa sees this, terror overwhelms her. To her, it no longer feels like madness or confusion. She becomes convinced that the strange Western spirit brought home by Uki has already passed into Nang-i as well. Fear begins turning into desperation, and desperation slowly turns into violence. One night, while Uki is asleep, Mohwa secretly pulls the New Testament from his arms and throws it into the fire. Then she begins chanting against the Western ghost she believes has possessed her son.
O spirit from distant lands, leave this house, leave this child.
To Mohwa, the Bible has become more than a book. It is a vessel carrying an alien power into her world. As the flames spread through the room, panic, ritual, and madness become impossible to separate. Uki struggles to put out the fire. Mohwa follows him with a knife in her hand, no longer seeing her son, but the foreign spirit she believes has taken his place. And in that terrible moment, exorcism turns into violence. Uki fell to the ground, his body marked by his mother's blade. He did not die that night, but through the long months that followed, his strength slowly began to fade. Sometimes Mohwa held his trembling hands and wept beside him.
My child, you came all this long way searching for your mother. What terrible fate has followed you here?
Uki answered weakly, his fading voice barely above a whisper.
Mother, do not grieve too much. When I die, I will go to my father.
And later, when only Nang-i remained beside him in the dim room, he whispered softly,
I wish I had a Bible beside me.
Mohwa abandoned almost all of her rituals and plans. Day after day, she remained beside her son, praying over him and performing desperate rites as though she could still drive the Western spirit from his body. But nothing worked. The villagers began whispering that Mohwa's powers had failed, and by the following spring, Uki was dead. After his death, Mohwa seems to lose hold of the world itself. She rarely leaves the ruined house anymore. Alone among the weeds and collapsing roof tiles, she beats her gong and brass cymbals for hours, muttering curses against the Jesus ghost that she believes stole her son away. People begin saying that the shaman has gone mad. And then, one day, another rumor spreads across the villages. Mohwa will perform one final ritual at the deep waters of Yegiso, where a wealthy young woman has thrown herself to her death. People cross mountains and rivers to witness it. By the riverside, the ritual ground begins to resemble a strange midnight festival. Food stalls, drums, lanterns, chants, musicians, merchants, and crowds fill the white sandbank beneath the stars. Under the great canopy, offerings to forgotten gods are laid out in endless rows. Mountain spirits, dragon spirits, ancestral spirits, wandering souls. It feels less like a ceremony than the final gathering of a disappearing world. Throughout the night, Mohwa dances beside the Black River. The villagers whisper among themselves. Mohwa no longer looks like the weary woman they once knew. Her face seems strangely transformed, illuminated by something between ecstasy, grief, and possession. Some believe the drowned woman's spirit has entered her. Others whisper that tonight's ritual will finally reveal which power is stronger, the old gods or the Jesus ghost. Mohwa's voice grows unbearably sorrowful as she calls out to the dead woman's soul. Her sleeves whirl through the darkness. Her body seems to lose all weight, as though flesh and bone have already dissolved into rhythm, grief, and spirit. The women watching scarcely breathe. It seems as though Mohwa has swallowed the sorrow of the drowned woman, the silence of the river, and the drifting stars above the night itself. But then the assisting shamans discover something terrifying. The dead woman's soul refuses to answer the summons. No matter how many times the ritual bowl is lowered into the water, not a single strand of hair rises from the depths. And then, carrying the ritual wand in her hand, Mohwa slowly walks into the river herself. Mohwa stirred the black water with the spirit pole, calling out to the wandering soul with a voice choked by grief.
O lost soul, wandering upon the black water, return home now. Return before the cold river takes your name away. Your old mother still waits beneath the lamp. Your little child still cries in the empty room. Do not drift alone beneath the dark current. Come back. Come back before the night swallows you forever.
Her voice trembles through the darkness. Deeper and deeper, she follows the drifting soul into the water. The black river rises to her waist, her chest, her shoulders. One sleeve of her brightly colored robe clings to her body, while the other floats upon the surface like a fading flame. Her voice grows fainter, more distant, more dreamlike, and then, together with the final fragments of her chant, Mohwa disappears completely beneath the dark water. For a moment, part of her robe still drifts upon the river. Then that too slowly sinks beneath the surface. Only the spirit pole keeps spinning upon the black water, its white paper streamers floating beneath the stars. The scene of that night has been passed down to us through Portrait of a Shaman, the painting said to have been created by Nang Yi.